Cheers to the best day of the week, retail trading team. This is Master coming to you live from Puppet Show Central with your routine briefing. Little shout out there to OJ, calls this my puppet show, so we're gonna run with that, and we're gonna start with our warm up today as we begin what should hopefully be another lovely week of trading. So, just a couple things to point out. Make sure my sound is on first. It is lovely. The first thing that I want to point out today is if you look at our overnight inventory, it was up and balanced. So we haven't had a nice up and balanced inventory in a while. I don't know if that really means anything yet. I think it lends itself to some two-sided action today, and you're seeing that as we speak right now. We tapped it overnight high, got the perfect overnight high trap, and are currently continuing that sell-off toward that overnight low. So looking for that two-sided action in a tighter range, and you're seeing that again denoted by that open auction in the first 30 minutes, and also that neutral TPO. So when we look at the TPO, I'm going to point out a potential change that may be developing as we progress in this morning session. Yeah, so far it's neutral, and remember that TPO is kind of uncertainty after trend, that tight range. So the difference between neutral and rotation is just rotation has that wider range, and today you can see with that 25. That IBR of 25, we do have that tight trading range, and I think we're having that neutral development in the TPO. When we get to that chart, I'll show you what is a potential development if it holds, and we'll just go to that from there. Talk about that when we get there. I think would be the better grammar. Anyways, and you can also see just the expected move zones, etc. Really, like I said, we're going to be pretty tight, I think, and really from about 4,005 to 3,960 on that SPX is going to probably be the range. If we do dip into either side of those, obviously you saw early in the morning we got near the top range. In fact, I think the high was right about 4,004, so didn't quite enter that expected that high probability zone yet. We got pretty close to it, so we'll see how far we get there on the downside. And you can also see these levels here. So I've bolded the levels that correspond to Barb, and I just put some other levels in there based upon other things I'm watching, and of course our good friend Adam Mancini, who I like to follow on the Twitters and whose newsletter is the only newsletter that I look at. So uh, unsolicited, unpaid advertisement right there, but some of those levels come from him and just kind of where I see confluence with my charts. So that's why those are expanded today. We're going to talk about the futures trade logs, the various ones that you see along the bottom here. By the way, this document in the description of the video, warm up with me here, I believe is what I say. This is that warm up document. So I don't know if anybody, I don't know if anybody watches this in general, but for those three of you or two of you, however many it is that do watch it, I don't know if you have looked at these tabs along the bottom. If you have, you'll notice that I've expanded. So we have Faye, which is just a kind of fade at edges, so FAE. And you'll also notice that this weekend I put in Fabio. So Fabio is Faye and Barb in one, is that acronym. Love the acronyms. So you'll notice that's there. I'm actually going to, so I've been blending Faye and Barb to create Fabio, hence the name. Um, and I'm going to probably get rid of Faye over the course of this week. I want to do a little bit more testing. And I'm really trying to find the correct stop mechanics for that Fabio bot. So I'm not going to mess with Barb. Let's take a little peek at Barb. I'm not sure if I've uh, plugged this, so I'm going to plug it again. You can see she's doing very nicely this year. All of that came a couple weeks. Was it last week we had FOMC? Whenever the FOMC week was, I think it was last week. I should probably remember these things. She really almost doubled her P&L in 2 days, so really interesting. Her optimal F, so we're going to go to the result-based assumption forecast. This optimal F actually dipped to 0.0. Not quite into negative territory, but right perfectly neutral. And then the next day, you saw her emerge from a drawdown. So really big fan of that bot. I think it's annoying to trade. It's kind of why I moved it away from my personal live trading. I can't handle month-long drawdowns personally. What's going on here? I think I see OJ in the. Yes. We'll talk about OJ's Mr. Juiceball there's secret trading system, which is when we review just kind of what I've been looking at today, trying to integrate that. But yes, Barb, as you can see, not a sexy win rate for a day trader. You just gotta kind of execute and deal with these drawdowns. But you can see been performing very nicely relative to margin, 100% return on margin so far this year. So really can't complain about that. But that's Barb. So I'm not touching Barb. I am integrating Faye and Barb, and we'll call OJ's horse system into that Fabio bot, which I'm just kind of tinkering with, as our friend Juiceball might say. So moving on from that warm up, let's kind of look at what's going on, keeping that same theme of bots and tinkering, let's look at what we got going so far today. So I had 2 entries today. I just had that I thought we were flagging pre-market, so I just threw on a 1 lot. It didn't really look too good, so I just crashed out on that, which is nice because that would have been a stop out. Horses live in a stable. Get it? That is very, very clever, Mr. Juiceball. Uh, actually, that's pretty good. I can't even. I say that facetiously, but yeah, I like it. Hello, Dale. I'm happy to see you, and I appreciate you and the 2 other fans who actually watch these videos. Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, so real quick, just kind of staying on the theme of the bot tinkering. So what I'm kind of looking at is you want to keep that you touch the barbs, you get spiked. That is also a good saying, Mr. Dale. Wow, you guys are feeling really creative, I see, on this Monday morning. Uh, anyways, so yeah. So what's going on here? So what's Fabio here? I'm still tinkering with it, so I'm not really going to plug it too much. I just kind of want to show you what I'm looking at. So something that really, and I got this from Mr. Juiceball, has a certain profit target. So profit target I'm using are going to be those N and that various N number that you see. I'll just go to the warm-up document here again real quick. This N and 0.5 N, so some combination of that. And what I'm trying to do here is, uh, let me go back to the other screen, is figure out a way where you get that nice income generating type trade, which comes without the runner, and then at the same time being able to capture these bigger moves. So just let's look at what happened today so far. So ignoring that first trade was just kind of a subjective little scalpy scalp that scratched out there. So let's look at the second. The second was really perfect. Everything, this is perfect setup, and we can, I think, talk about some mechanics. If you're in the chat or if you're viewing this later in the comments and you have any suggestions, etc., this would be really great. This is kind of I think the most useful aspect of these briefings is actually figuring out trade management, trade execution, blah, blah, blah. Crystal ball is really cute, and that is something that we will do in a second. Yet I think that really pretty much any trading system can work with the proper management. It's just about finding that. So anyway, so let's jump into this and look at exactly what happened. So you had the fake break, perfect fake break at the overnight high. Um, Really there's kind of a bigger sell-off there than would be optimal for that perfect entry you'd think, yet we did have that lower low. So I waited a second. The entry on that was 2075. And that entry I think actually would have been stopped out. So I wanted to see what happened around this trend line. You can see this trend line comes from, that's some barb entries over there. So just ignore all those entries. But this trend line comes from this low here, which is obscured by our entries. But let me hide those real quick. All right, so this is kind of the trend line that formed on Friday. You saw that retest with the overnight low. Perfect retest, really. Actually, I drew it from here to here. I did not draw it here, so that's really cool that it just kind of came down and touched it overnight. Once again, that overnight session seems to provide some really excellent trades if you want to be up at 4 a.m. Anyway, so what I wanted to see is you had that perfect fake break, and I wanted to see what happened. So I'm going to throw these back on so you can follow along. What happened when we hit it? So we got that retrace. We held, just kind of hovered around the price. You didn't see that speed and aggression away. And remember, speed and aggression for any type of day trading system is one of the best indicators. And we just kind of sat there for a second. So I went ahead and took the entry into the fake break, and you saw us lose that trend line and dip below. I got stopped out, so my profit targets today again are just 1/2 N, which is about 22 ticks, pretty close to a 5-point number that I've heard from some other people is pretty great. So there's some confluence there. Anybody in the chat who may be familiar with what I'm talking about, and yeah. So what I'm trying to work on here, and this is kind of the question, is how do we correctly structure the runner. So I just had this on sim before the briefing here a little bit, and what I was looking at is what I did is I had the trigger offset at 22, so that's why you see that stop there at 2275. I think I actually moved it up a little. I wanted to give it some more room, so I had to take a bigger stop than that that offset that you're seeing here. But I'm trying to figure out how much room can we give this runner without cutting into profits too much. So I was talking to Juice Ball there. I think he has some great mechanics. Um, that I will continue to talk about with him. Um, but for anybody who's kind of looking at this runner component, um, I'm wondering how do we find that nice medium? So that's why I had this back at 44. This is how Barb works, is you do give it plenty of room. And Barb actually also has this trail offset to 44. So I guess I'm trying to figure out the reason that's at 13, by the way, is that just protects about 30% of profits. So I'm trying to figure out how to properly structure this runner that we catch more of this move. So like I said, I had that trigger a little tight, so I did take the stop at about 22.75. I think 20.50 was the exact number. I just wanted to give it a little bit of room, like I said. Yet still, it didn't. I don't think. I think that was too tight because this has been a pretty easy little downtrend here. The retraces have not been that steep. So again, I do think that for the runner, that 22 little 13 structure here is a little too tight, and I'm wondering, and I think that the 44, you know, that just and everywhere else I think is a little too loose. So just wanted to real quick talk about that with anybody, brainstorm a little bit. Like I said, I don't see anybody in the chat, but if you want to comment or respond to me some other one of the various ways that I plug at the end of these briefings, that would be great. Trying to figure out the optimal runner mechanic for that, and that's what we'll be doing the rest of the day. The way that I do things is if I have a green winner, even though it's not like the biggest winner, $600. If it's this early in the day and it's my first trade, I just kind of take it and run. And so I'm not going to be live trading the rest of the day. I'm going to be doing is tinkering with this system here. So yeah, if anybody has any ideas, um, okay, let's see, OJ, you can bring it all the way back to break even. So in this case, Mr. Juiceball, it did also retrace to that break-even price. Let me make sure I'm not misleading you here. Second. Stand by. So this exit was at, let's look at the trade activity log, 10:08. So at 10:08, the high of that bar was, I think we got that full retrace back to opening price. Yeah, so that would have still stopped out at break even. So I don't think it gives it enough room. I think so. Yeah, partials pay for sure, Ernie. I mean that's so uh, the way I'm looking at this is a three lot. I've heard from another reliable source that multiples of two are also a good thing to look at. So I'm just looking at a three lot here. Obviously, um, I'm open to changing that as well. But really, it's about at least what I'm looking at here is locking it in. You want to lock in. You want to pay for the risk of the runner. So any structure that pays for the risk of the runner is on the table. Yeah, you want to also give that runner um, a good amount of room. So even if you'd had this is why I kind of moved this to the stop offset and trigger offset. I moved the trigger to 44 instead of the 22 here. Is you still get that you still give it a little bit of room and it doesn't start trailing until you've had that full rotation. And if we that would have locked in another let's see, like eight-ish points, by the way, with just that. So and then obviously with this trail offset of 44, we'd be at about break even right now. That's why I said I think the 44 40 I think this gives back too many profits, too many, whatever. And then this I think is reasonably tight. So it's I think like I said, the trail 13 between 13 and 44, we could debate that, but it's really a trigger I'm looking at. So do we want to trigger? I don't think we want to trigger that 22. So it's about do we trigger at the 22 and maybe give it a larger trail, or do we want to trigger at a higher number and keep this trail nice and tight? Um, so super confusing probably, but anybody who's following me, like I said, I would appreciate some discussion around that. And like I said, I'm gonna be testing. Basically, what I'm gonna be testing today, just to keep it nice and easy, is I'm gonna test the 44, 44, 13, and the 44, 22, which means it starts trailing when these um, pop in, and then like maybe a different trail offset. I don't know. I'll probably just stick with the 44, 44, 13, just so I can get enough occurrences in today, and then I'll see what you guys say, and we'll look at other potential options as well. And like I said, I'm talking to a an esteemed trader who likes a version of the system and from whom I stole uh, a chunk of these mechanics, and we'll see what he has to say as well. So anyway, that's what a little bit off topic here, different than normal. I just wanted to have that brief conversation about this because I do like, based on some things I saw this weekend, and like I said, a discussion with an esteemed trader, I do like, I think, front loading a little bit and then maybe adding on the back end. We'll get to the adding on the back end part. I don't want to. Again, we had talked about a lot this weekend, looked at a lot. So I'm just kind of we'll go to the adding part on a different day, but just for today, this initial structure when you open the trade, I'm trying to figure out what would be um, that optimal combination of the. So I think the stop offset, at least for me, is good. I like that. I like to give it a full rotation um, on this runner. Obviously, on the primary trade, it's just going to be 1-to-1. I just think that's how you do it. And again, that from what I've been seeing this weekend, it seems to be the move as well. So on this runner, I do like to give it for sure that space. So then the question is, when does it trigger? When does this trail come up, and how big is the trail? So that would be the TLDR, as the kids say. Okay, so that's what we have for that. So let's move on to the actual price action portion, as it's almost evening already. And we're gonna flip back to this chart, and we're gonna start with that macro look real quick. So it's pretty simple today, I think. So if we look at this as a SPY chart, remember delayed because I refused to pay the extra $4 a month or whatever it is for the data. Um, what we're just looking at here is, again, we're hanging out around this 365-day VWAP. I think the 100 SMA is right there too. Yeah, 100 SMA is basically stacked on top of it, and we're just watching that for the low. So how to react if you want a specific level? Let's say 395.50 looks pretty good. How do we react to 395.50 on the downside, and then the upside? I think this is at right about 399.50 to 400. So surprise, surprise, same place we've been since last year. SPY 400. That's still the macro look. Nothing too much to look at there. So I'm just going to skip right to the TPO. And I see Juice Ball, your comment here. So we're going to table that TPO real quick so I can answer this. When you put on that trade, what was your next level below? Good question, Mr. Juiceball. So my next level was, I have it right here because my other computer is stalling. Oh, here it is. Okay, so next level was 4011. So 4020 was that big level. We kind of lost that, and then 4011 was the next one. To answer your question. So uh, while OJ ponders that or uses that for whatever intelligent uh, thing he's going to do with it, anyways, looking at this TPO, we're kind of seeing. So I said in the very beginning of this briefing an hour ago, watching kind of that developing double distribution. I don't know if I said this specifically, but I'm watching kind of this developing double distribution here. I think they're going to go clean up the single as we speak. And so once that gets cleaned up, it's going to go back to that neutral look. No surprise. You see that same look in the overnight session. That same look in the overnight session, and it's likely that just continues into this current session. So really, I think it's really, if you look at that warp document, those levels stand true. And if you do have that sustained sell, I really love along at that 82 area. So that's one of those areas where Mr. Mancini and I do have the confluence. And on top of that, I just noticed when I was looking at the TPO, we also have that naked POC at 8150. So if we do get that big sell, I think that 82 numbers are really high probability long. And just besides that, it's all about these levels for today. Bolded are barb, so they're not. It's not that they're more important than the others. It's just that's bolded for barb. Um, and barb is, those are usually pretty important levels. So I guess that's why we're bolded there. What did OJ say? If you open that trade at 28, your next level is 11. Yes. So I haven't tested just ripping them at levels, OJ. I still like, at least for now, until we figure out. Let me go back to the screen here. Until we figure out, I think the optimal combination of these, which I think we're pretty close based on you and I's discussion as well. Then I'm going to start looking at it at specific levels. Right now, I'm just using that 10-minute candle close and plus lower low. So you saw it today, 10-minute the fake break, 10-minute candle close. We made that lower low, slight bounce, entered right around there. So I agree with you though that there's probably some value in taking that earlier entry. I just haven't tested it out, so as not to blow up my account, I'm just sticking with the thing that I know at least works until I've tested it. But I agree, that's a interesting thought to put a level component to it, and I will tinker with that idea as well, and I'll probably send you a bunch of annoying texts about it. So, anyways, moving on to the final part of our lovely briefing, and then I'll pop it back in the chat one more time. Let's just look at volatility. Again, as I was talking about all last week, not much to see here. We're just in this. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. That was kind of that double bottom look, but that's not really an important level. Oops. Especially for the purposes of the briefing. Let's just condense this. We are just in this huge, wide, choppy chop zone of volatility. So wide that I'm not really even looking at volatility right now. I mean, intraday, if you want to use it to gauge, you can just draw like pretty little rectangles and stuff. I think like you can see here, it's trying to have some type of a bid, but really it's going to be in this really strong downtrend um, relative to our chop zone until we get above, let's say, like that 2320 area. But again, I'm not really looking at volatility too much right now. It's too wide. Um, there's too much going on. I think it's one of those things that you're going to see what you want to see, and we just gotta wait until it tightens up a little bit, or perhaps look to fade some of these lower levels. So as we got near this 22 area, I think, did we get it last night? No, on Friday. Yeah, there we go. On Friday, as we got near that 22 area. Why am I definitely have the wrong day here? 1 second. 327, 324. Thank you. There we go. When we got near that 26 area, you started to decline, and that went to, and that you saw that in price action in the general market with that bigger rally. But again, not super important to me right now. It just kind of goes back to what I've been ranting about all year, which is that VIX, when it's above 20, uh, I think the bears, I'm not going to say are in control, but the market has more of a bearish sentiment, especially relative to our major trend lines, and if it's below, kind of the opposite. But right now, at least in my opinion, volatility is not all that helpful until we kind of get near some more important, I would say, price action levels. So again, you could say that it is important because it's showing us that the bears still have control, especially below that SPY trend line. Yet, I think for purposes of trading and crystal balling, etc., it's just good to know that it's chopping in a very large range. And so yeah, so that is all I have for you in the price action. So anybody who has been watching up to this point, I think this is like the longest briefing ever. So thank you for putting up with that. And I'm going to hop into the chat. So that's all price action. If you're not interested in this discussion around um, targets and stuff like that, that's the briefing. Cheers to you. And if you are, we're going to go into the chat one more time before signing off here because I see OJ has another thing here. The runner go to 11 with a backstop at 5 profit. Take the second off at 11 and rinse repeat. All right, OJ, let me ponder that for a second. So where would that backstop trigger? So when you open the trade, are you assuming all three? So I'm gonna ask you two questions, OJ. First question is, are you assuming all three have that 5 point stop? And then the second question is, when does that runner stop move up to break even? So let's use 11 and 5. So when the runner hits 11, that moves up to 5. Is that what you're saying? And then the second question, or first, I guess, was, are all five that 5 point profit stop or 5 point standard stop? And so what that structure would look like, I'm not sure if he's responding, but if he is, what that would look like on here would be, so these are standard. These are, let's say 5. I'm going to use that 1/2 n number. This stop, so we're going to see where he says that first stop would be. Potentially, it could also be at 22. That's what I think he's saying here. And then the trigger, when the runners are 11, take the second one off and let the third run to your next target. Oh, so you're saying two runners. Interesting. Hmm. I will have to think about that. That's interesting. It's gonna change the structure a little bit. Let me look at this one more time. If you start off with this. So first off at 5. So let's just do this live. Interesting. I like this. So you're gonna have still one target. Stop 1, stop 2. There you go. So I need 3 stops, one target, quantity of 3. So your first target is going to be that 22. So OJ, are these one base target, one valid, 3 latex? OJ, are you on all 3 of these? Are you assuming the same stop? So is it a 5-point initial stop for all? Okay. Yes. Not sure how I feel about the 5-point base stop. So, but let's run with this a little bit. So, I'm gonna leave that. That's gonna be the Valhalla stop. We'll say that triggered trailing stop there. So this one's also gonna be a triggered trailing stop or time stop. Okay, I like. Okay, that's. I think I would prefer the time stop for at least that Valhalla target. But let's put this on. See what we got going here. All right. So, target 1, 22. Stop, it says 2 on here, but whatever, stop 1. This stop, I do like matching them there, so I like that for the 5 pointer. I think for this stop as well, I like the 5 points, so this would be um, 22. It's going to trigger at hmm, probably just a normal trailing stop, to be honest. Stop market. Okay. So it's going to offset by 22, and it'll just drag as we go then. Nah, I want to be triggered. We do need a triggered. All right. So offset by 22, triggers at 22, and trails. So yeah, so this is the one that targets 11. So you're right. So I'm just gonna use the 44. So this is still gonna give the 5 points of room at 44. So 11. Duh. It's gonna trigger and it's gonna pop up to 22 to protect that initial, to at least protect that 5 points. So that's the third. So the second is easy, that's just a standard stop, and then the Valhalla of the 3 will give it a little more room. So 44 triggers at 44 and trails. Let's see. So let me go back to what you were saying here. Stop on the trailers. So you'd have to see what the difference is between the levels. So let's use these levels 40, 28, and 11. Oh. So then it would be once you saw it just straight 4011, or would you just kind of leave it um because what if it goes up and tags 4011 and pops back down? I guess I'm asking how many points of acceptance beyond 4011 would you give it? So then this would not be a trailer. So we're gonna actually get rid of this, or we're gonna not get rid of it. We're gonna make it just a straight, um, not a trail stop. What do we even call that? I would just move it. You probably have to just move it down manually. So it'd be a standard stop, 22, 7 points. So you say you give it 7 points of room. Yep, straight stop, 7 points of room. Okay, I got you. So 3 contracts. This is the one I'm going to tinker with. This one would be just the standard. So we need quantity one, quantity one. So target one comes off for this stop. This is OCO group. Let's make this OCO group one. Not letting me. So what is this? OCO group one, OCO group three. Gotta be two. There you go. Two, two. So this OCO group comes off. Great. Okay. So this OCO group comes off just a standard 5 points. OCO group two. All right, they're all different, but we'll call this OCO group one, even though it says OCO group two. OCO group one, 5 points. OCO group two is going to be just that standard trailing stop, and maybe we should. So I didn't even think of this, but why not? So okay, OJ, instead of trailing at 30%, which would be about 13. Let me make sure I did my math right. I did that in my head, so that's always a gamble. Yeah, okay, nice. So instead of that 30% trailer, what would zero point 0.5 times? What about a 50% trailer? So if you had to pick between 1% rotation, okay, that's a good fact. I didn't even realize that. Good looks there. So okay, so what do you think of? All right, I'm gonna ask it. It's a kind of binary, I guess, but it's three options, so whatever that would be. So if your option was, so we have this stop. This one gets moved up to the level. So this is a level slash Valhalla stop. So just on the standard trailer that triggers at that rotation, do you think that number should be? Depends on what your Valhalla target is. So assuming for this one, I would use levels like you said, and then 7 points of acceptance. And but this one is just like letting it rip, and this was the one that would get the ads. So when we added, let's say you added one contract, so after 4011, 39.98. Um, but I guess what I'm asking is if you had to pick between for the trail offset, if you had to pick between 44, 22, and 13, so that one is 30%, 50%, and then 100%. Knowing that you already are basically locking in. So if you of three contracts, two of three are 100% going to be profitable, and by the time that second one triggers, this one's break even. So assuming that this is paid for, what is do you think the optimal trail? So I think it's either going to be, let's say, 13, 22, or 44. And so this one, the target one is here. This is the one we keep moving based on targets, but this is just the straight. We'll call it Hugard stop where I don't know where the market's going, and I just want this to trail and capture that move. But I also don't want to give back an unreasonable amount of profits. So I've had that at 44. Barb is at 44, and it definitely works. Like Barb is very, extreme, performing quite well. Just a second target. Okay. So you wouldn't use a trail stop at all. You would use three normal stops and just putting them on at targets. Is that what you're saying? Got it. Got it. That's interesting. Let's look at that real quick, and then I'm gonna uh, stop bugging you. But let's just look at that so far for today. So let's assume. So I'm just gonna remove this. So we got 22. So I'm just gonna add another stop. So target 1, 22. Stop 1, 22. Easy enough. Stop 2. Let's say, because I don't want all these to come off at 5. So we'll do 44 for stop 3. And then let's see, 66 divided by 2, let's say 33 for this. That's just, random, given some room. Okay, so then we go on here. So let's do this. I'm going to do this in sim. Da-da-da. And we'll play today. So I do agree that getting on at the level is optimal. But I'm just going to stay with that 10-minute candle for now. And we'll just see how this would have played out. All right, so somewhere like this, hop right in there. Boom. All right. So we're in at, let's say, 40-20-ish. We're playing the 40-20. And let me just reduce the speed a little bit. And so we're looking for 40-11. So that first limit comes off at that 1750 just because 5 points no matter what. Okay, so we're off there. The low of that is not quite at 40-11, so we're still hanging out here. We're not moving these stops. Or would you move the stop when that first target hit, or are you waiting for the level? Answer that. Great. Okay. So we haven't hit the level yet. So we're just hanging out with those stops still in the ether. Doing our thing. All right, there's 11. So we hit 11 there. So these move down to 5 points of profit. So 23 minus 5 is, let's say, 18, which is great because that's our 7 points off the level. So I like that. So there you go, 7 points locked in. And then when we lose 11, so let's see what happens here. So we're just hanging out. We're going to let it consolidate, do its thing. So is it losing 11 by 7 points as well? Is that when we move it, that 7 point number is your acceptance or rejection number? Got it. Okay. Got it. Okay. So we'll see when we get to 04 here. Still hanging out. Haven't gotten stopped. Okay, so we got to 04 there. So then 7 points. So then this goes down to 11. Tell me if I'm doing this different than what you're talking about, OJ. I actually put it here just so it's above the other candle, so that could be 12. So these go down to 12. Next level there is 39.98, which I don't think we've actually hit yet in the real time. Nope, not yet. So see if we get this retraced out. Stop. Oh, damn it. Oh, lost it. Agreed. Yeah. So I lost it, but I think I get what you're saying there. Is that 7 points of acceptance? You're not using any type of trailing stop. You're using 7 points of acceptance or rejection, whatever. And as we get down to each level, you are just moving the stop to the next level. So at 11, we didn't hit that 98 number yet, but because we lost it or we went through it by 7 points, you just automatically move it back up to somewhere that makes sense, which in that case was 12. Was that correct? I'm gonna stare at this chat some more, I think. Great. All right. Interesting. I'm excited to play with this, Mr. OJ. I'm gonna go do that, in fact. And I think it's just you and I here. But if anybody else is left, I'm gonna give my cute little spiel, which is Twitch. I don't know. I guess I'll do. We'll see if anybody wants to hang out and listen to a DJ set. But I kind of want to run these sims all day. So if you are part of that crew, which I'm 99% sure nobody here is, uh, that's probably going to be tabled. I will hit the two of you individually who are reliable, and I'll let you know about that. Besides that, feel free to tweet Routine Trader with your thoughts. I'm going to push out this newsletter. It's late but worth it. Obviously, I think this is an important little workshop that we did here, and subscribers can respond to that, or just in the comment section of this video is great too. So if you did enjoy today's long video, please give it a like. That would really help with YouTube's algorithm, and I would appreciate it. And that's all I have for you today. It's time to go simulate. Thank you for hanging out, and thank you, OJ, and Dale, and Ernie, and anybody else who was here for hanging out. And yeah, it's going to be fun to tinker. So as I do that, I'll see you tomorrow, and stay classy until then. My empty Starbucks cup.